Welcome. Today we shall be discussing woodwork tools. 1. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to define tools. You should be able to state different types of woodwork hand tools that we have. You should also be able to define Okay, I'm not going to set them out. Welcome. Today we shall be talking about woodwork tools. By the end of this topic, you should be able to define tools, state different types of woodwork tools that we have. You should also be able to define driving tools, list different types of driving tools, and basically state their uses. You should also be able to define measuring tools, identify measuring tools. Let's look at this. A tool is a device or implement, especially one held in the hand, used to carry out a particular function. A tool is a device. A tool is an implement. Usually the one that is held in the hand that is used to carry out a particular function. But we are talking about basically woodwork hand tools. So those tools that we use when we want to carry out any woodwork project that enable us to measure our workpiece, to actually drive fasteners in our workpiece, and so on and so forth in our workpiece. All right. So those are the tools we are going to be considering in this class. So stay put as we progress. Hand tools can be classified as either hand tools or power tools. We have woodwork hand tools, we have woodwork power tools, machine tools that are for woodwork too. So we can classify them in two broad ways. They are woodwork hand tools or woodwork power tools. Okay, so those hand tools, woodwork hand tools, are those tools that actually are operated manually. You don't need any motor to turn them. You don't need any electricity before they function. All right, those ones are called hand tools. They are manually operated with your hand. You can use them. For example, you don't need any electricity to use hammer to drive in nail in a wood. So can you see that a hammer there represents a hand tool? But we also have power tools, those tools that are operated, with electricity. Without electricity, they cannot function. You cannot use some tools. You cannot use a power saw, for example. You cannot use it without electricity. It has to be run with electricity before it can function. Okay, so let's look exactly at what we want to talk about today, which is woodwork hand tools. So from what we have said now, we can tell from here that woodwork hand tools are those devices, right, that we use to perform different function on a woodwork, so long as it has to be done manually. All right. So, but we have different types of woodwork machines, different types, tools, so to say. We have the measuring tools. We have setting out tools, we have marking out tools, we have driving tools, we have cutting tools, we have boring tools, we have holding tools, and so on and so forth. These are different hand tools we have so long as woodwork is concerned. They are classified under these headings. Okay, measuring tools, just as the name implies, they are these tools that are used to measure diameters, measure length of woodwork. Before you want to measure any woodwork, you want to actually fabricate any woodwork piece, be it table, be it a door, be it a frame, anything. You need tools to measure out their outlines, to measure out their dimensions. So measuring tools specifically are those tools that we use to measure dimensions of our workpiece. So a good example of a measuring tool here is a tape, a measuring tape. A measuring tape. This is the common measuring tape among carpenters. You know, it's easy to pull. This one is portable, it's easy to carry about. You can just fix it on your jeans and go to anywhere you want to go to. So measuring tapes, like you see here, is used to measure the dimensions of the workpiece. Measuring tapes, they are graduated in, this particular one is graduated in inches, but we also have other measuring tapes too that can have them in centimeters. You can have them like that, graduated in centimeters. You already know certain measurements that 10 millimeters make 1 centimeter. Please, this is a measuring tape we use for measuring length and dimensions of our woodwork. We also have another measuring tool we call the calipers. All right, the calipers here, they are used to measure dimensions of woodwork within their capacity. There are basically 3 types of calipers. There are inside caliper, there is outside caliper, and we also have the odd leg caliper. Some people can call it external and internal calipers. All right, just as the name implies, the inside caliper is basically used to measure the internal diameter of our workpiece, the internal diameter of the workpiece. That's what the inside caliper is used for. But the outside caliper measures the external diameter, the external diameter of a workpiece. Let's say you want to measure a wood, you want to know what the outside diameter is. That is what it's going to tell you. The outside caliper will tell you that. But odd leg caliper got the name from the fact that one of the legs is odd from the normal caliper that we have. Basically, that odd leg caliper is basically used for centering. If you want to know the center of your workpiece, the odd leg caliper does that function for us. You know, that's what it's used for, to determine the center of a workpiece. The odd leg caliper does that function for us. You can see the odd leg caliper. You can use it to mark out the center of a workpiece. Look at that leg there. Look at this leg that is not a conventional leg of a caliper. You can see it. It's called the odd leg. The odd leg is used basically for centering, to mark off center of woodwork. You can see the motion picture you have there, what it is doing to actually identify the center. Now the inside caliper, you see the way it is, this leg here, you know, when you have this leg put in, let's say you have a workpiece that is cylindrical and is hollow, for example. You want to determine the internal diameter. This is the caliper that can do that for you. So all you need to do is that when you adjust it with the spring or the null, and so to say, when you adjust the leg and it fixes firmly on the internal diameter, all you need to do is to remove the leg and put them on a measuring instrument, let's say a rule, for example. When you put it on a rule, you can tell exactly what the internal diameter of that woodwork piece is. So we also have another caliper here. I told you before, this is the outside caliper. You see the way it is called like a bow leg. Okay, so if you have, let's say, this, you want to determine this diameter, all you need to do is to put this caliper here, fixed, adjust it with the knurling knob, all right, until it clips it firmly here. Then remove it and put the legs, all right, on a measuring rule. Could be a meter rule. You can now tell, oh, the diameter of this bucket is, let's say, 30 millimeters, so to say. That will be the diameter. So it has given us the external diameter of this particular shape. Let's say this is a woodwork. We can get the external diameter using that caliper. You see. Okay, we also have a divider. The divider does a function. That function it does is that it is used for scribing arcs. It's also used for scribing curve. It can be used to also transfer measurements. A divider is used for transferring measurement. It can be used for that purpose too. You can use it to transfer measurement. You can use it to make an arc. You can use it to make a curve, right, in a certain distance. You can use the divider for that in a workpiece. Okay, now we have other tools we call setting and marking out tools. Setting out tools are used to set surfaces and edges at an angle. That's where they got the name from, setting out tools. We use them to set surfaces and edges at an angle. While marking out tools are used to indicate points or positions on a workpiece. You see, sometimes the all-leg caliper can also be looked at as a marking out tool. Yeah, please take note of that. When you have different options for marking out tools and you don't have any marking out tool and you have an all-leg caliper there, that all-leg caliper can function as a marking out tool in this case. This is the case it can serve that, where you don't have other marking out tools there and someone gives you option of, you know, marking out tools. The all-leg caliper there can be used to mark off or get the center of your workpiece. Okay, so those tools that we use to indicate points or positions on a workpiece, we call them marking out tools. That's what we call them. All right, let's look at different examples of setting out tools and marking out tools. Let's look at them and see. Number one here is a tri-square. A tri-square. A tri-square is actually a tool that's used to, should I say, determine the squareness of an edge. Carpenters make use of this. Bricklayers make use of a tri-square. You cannot form an edge. Let's say you want to make a boot joint, for example. You just want to make a simple boot joint. And you want to determine that, that the T-shape you have formed makes a right angle where it's supposed to make a right angle. It is the T-square that gives us that squareness of an edge. That is what it does for us. It's used for checking the squareness of an edge. Is it at 90 degrees? The tri-square will do that for us. Of course, you can see that the tri-square here is made up of the handle and the blade. You see the blade there is a metal. And we have different graduations on the tri-square. So once you put your tri-square and it aligns, you see it, you can now fasten your joint with an adhesive or a fastener. Then you have your joint fixed. We also have another important setting out tool or marking out tool here that we call the sliding bevel. This is basically used for checking and marking angles and to check bevels. That's what we use the sliding bevels for, to mark out angles, right, and check bevels. Is it a certain bevel that you want it? Okay, so that's what we use this particular marking out tool for. We also have the marking gauge. We also have the marking gauge. You can see different design of the marking gauge. All right, we have the adjustable spur, we have the stem here, we have the set screw, we have the stock. We also have the nut, we have the thumb screw, which is made up of brass. Okay, that's the marking gauge for you. Then we have the meter gauge. The meter gauge here is used for marking angle 45 degrees. If you want to mark off angle 45 degrees, it is the meter gauge that does that function for us. We also have a panel gauge. The panel gauge here is used to actually check or gauge the width of a board. If you want to gauge the width of a board, we use the panel gauge to do that, to check or to know actually what exactly is the width of a board. We use the panel gauge for that purpose. Then we also have the sliding square. The sliding square here is used for testing lines at right angles. That's what we use the sliding squares for. Okay, we use them to test lines that are at right angles. Then we have the trammel, which you can see what it is being used for here from the screen. We have the trammel here. We can use trammel to scribe large circles, to inscribe large circles on our board. We can use trammel for that. We also have a wing compass. This wing compass is used for making small arcs and circles on the workpiece. You know, you may think we don't need these things, but by the time you actually visit any woodwork shop, you can see these things being used, especially those of them that are into furniture making and carvings. You see them making use of these tools to ensure that they have a precise figure, precise work they want to actually make. They make use of these tools in most workshops. Okay, now driving tools. This is another important tools we need for woodwork. Driving tools. The name alone will tell you what they are used for. Driving tools are tools used for pushing in nails, screws, pins, etc. into the wood. Example of a driving tool include the hammer, the screwdriver, the punches. These are different types of driving tools that we have. The hammer, the screwdrivers, and punches. Now, you know, hammer is very common. You know, hammer is very common. We have different types of hammer. Basically, what we use hammers for is to drive in nail in a woodwork. Carpenters that are into roofing, they make use of hammer to actually join woods to make the roof that we'll see. Those of them into upholstery, they make use of hammer to drive in nails into the wood. Okay, so basically we have these hammers that are used for different purposes and their names. Okay, so let's look at different types of hammers that we have. We have a hammer we call a ball pen hammer. We have the blacksmith sledgehammer. We have a cross pen hammer, otherwise known as the Warrington hammer. Please, you should take note of these names. We have the body mechanic hammer. That's panel beaters. All right, that's the hammer they make use of. We also have the bricks hammer. We have the claw hammer. Even if you forget every other type of hammer, you not forget the cross pen, you don't forget the straight pen, you not forget the claw hammer. The claw hammer oftentimes can be used for two functions. One, it can be used to pull up nails, from the wood. It can be used for that purpose. It can also be used to drive in nail into the wood, depending on what you want to use it for. The ball pen hammer here, like you see the ball pin, all right, oftentimes when you are actually trying to drive in nail into the wood, sometimes hardwood will bend the nail. Some hardwood will do that because they are hard. So sometimes the nail will bend. So the hammer that we actually use to straighten the nail before driving it further with a claw hammer is the ball pen hammer that does that function for us. Okay, the panel beater or the body mechanics hammer, of course, used to straighten the panel of or the body of a car, the panel bodies of vehicles. It can be used for that function and all of that. Okay, we also have another type of hammer we call the mallet. This one, mallet can be wooden, can be rubber, you know. The mallet is big. We also have a sledgehammer, before I forget. That's a hammer we call sledgehammer. The sledgehammer, very big hammer. Okay, when you want to destroy a wall or maybe something, you want to just hit a sledgehammer on it, it tears it apart. All right, very big and heavy hammer. Okay, so we have mallet. Like I said, the mallet can be either made of rubber. We have rubber mallet. We have wooden mallet. So these ones are not strong hammer. They are not as strong as other types of hammer that I've mentioned. They are not strong. Okay, tilers make use of the rubber mallet to fix ties here in Nigeria. It may not be obtainable in some other parts of the country. I've seen them use that for that purpose. Okay, anytime you need to hit surfaces that don't require such hard heat from metallic hammer, mallet is that hammer that is used for that. You can see it here. Okay, you can see mallet here. That's the straight pen hammer there that we use to straighten some part of the nail that we want to drive into the nail. Okay, now these are the driving tools. Like you can see them, we've discussed these types of hammer already. This is a straight pin hammer, the ball pin hammer there, you see, and so to say, the cross pin, the claw hammer there, the claw hammer. The claw hammer is important. You have a look at it. It is called claw because it has this end that looks like a claw of your two hands, of your two fingers, looks like this. Okay, so this part can be used to remove nail from a woodwork. Let's say mistakenly you drove in nail where you're not supposed to drive in nail, all right? You make use of this part to remove it sharply, or maybe the nails are not going the way you want them. You use the claw hammer to remove it. Okay, so that's the claw hammer there. This is, of course, a plastic mallet. This is a wooden mallet. We have also rubber mallet, like I said before. We have mallet also made from rubber. Then we also have another driving tool we call punches. Basically, punches are used to drive in nails further into the wood. We have different types of punches, but we're going to look at three of them basically. We have a type of punch we call the dot punch. We have the center punch. We also have the pin punch. You know. Now, for a dot punch, for example, the ground, if you place a dot punch on a woodwork and use hammer on the punch, right? The tip of the punch, the point ground of the punch will make an angle of 60 degrees. Please take note. But for a center punch, right, it's going to make, the ground is going to make an angle of 60 degrees. If you make an indentation on the wood, so to say, you're going to see that I'm saying the angle the ground punch is going to make is 90 degrees for a center punch, but for a dot punch, the angle is going to be 60 degrees. Now, a pin punch, just as the name implies, when it has to do with, in short, it is the pin punch here that does this function of driving nail further into the wood. Let's say you want the nail to go beyond where your hammer can reach, you know. If you are using a claw hammer to drive in nails into the wood, there is a level you cannot get to. In short, beyond the surface, it will not be up to 2 millimeters, your hammer will stop. But if you want the nail to go beyond there, you can use a pin punch. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. This is a pin punch. You can see how protruded the tip looks. So with this, you know, it can drive in the nail further. So center punch, The dot punch, basically, they can be used to make indentations, right, on the wood before you bore, before you can use other boring tools to bore hole on the wood. So the dot punch and center punch, they are used for making indentations on the woodwork. Okay. We also have another important driving tool that we call the screwdriver. The screwdrivers. The screwdrivers are basically used to drive in screws into the wood. We have different types of screwdrivers. We have the ratchet screwdriver. That's the one you are seeing there. It's called the ratchet screwdriver. We have the offset screwdriver. We have a kind of screwdriver we call the Allen keys. The Allen key screwdrivers exist. Okay, so in the ratchet screwdriver, like you see here, basically what we use them for is to drive in screws. You know what? You have seen screws? You have seen screws. I know you have seen screws. Screws are not nails. These ones, as you want to maybe fasten two wood pieces, you can use screws to do that. So to drive in those screws, you will not be able to use hammer for it. But if you use screwdriver will drive them. We have a flat screwdriver like you are seeing here. This is the screw and this is the flat screwdriver. This is a ratchet screwdriver. It has different tips for different purposes. You can use it either you're using the star tip or the flat tip, but this one basically can only be used to screw these screws that have a center sunk, you know. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, the flat surfaced screws. That's what this one can be used for. But we also have different screws with different designs. Okay, the star screwdrivers will enter into the head of a screw that has that star head too. All of them basically they are used for driving in screws into the wood. Okay, this is the offset screwdriver. Okay, now let's use the ExamGuide app to practice few questions based on what I have taught you. I told you that the ExamGuide app is the app for every student in JSS 1, JSS 2, and JSS 3. If you must practice your subjects, not only basic technology but other subjects, if you must practice, it is this app. If you want to be that A student in your subject, I recommend this app strongly for you to use them to prepare yourself for your examination. Okay, so let's look at questions from what I've just taught now on woodwork hand tools. Let's look at it. This is 2013, number 26, basic technology. It says screws are driven by A, fastener, B, hammer, C, pincers, D, screwdrivers, E, spanners. Of course, fasteners here could be in the form of nail, can be in the form of pin, can be in the form of glues. They are all called fasteners. Hammer there is not. We don't use hammers to drive in screws into wood. We don't use pincers. Pincers can serve as cutting tools. You can use them to cut nails. Let's say you want to make joints on wood and the head of the nail is showing, use pincers to cut it. So that's basically what we use pincers for. Then spanners, of course, use them to tighten knot and bolts and not to drive in screws. Okay, so screwdriver here is used for driving in screws into the wood. This is 2019. Okay, you see, the tool shown below is A dash, center punch, drill bit, dot punch, steel rule, a tri-square. Answer this question. Okay, I know you have made your options. I'm aware. I believe you've chosen option E as your right option, because center punch is not that. It's not drill bit. I've told you what center punch and all of them. I've told you what dot punch is. The steel rule. No, the steel rule is a measuring instrument. All right, it's a measuring instrument. So, but this particular tool here is a tri-square. I told you that a tri-square is used to check the squareness of an edge. That's what this tool is used for. The right option here is tri-square. Thank you very much. Please, I encourage you to practice more with the exam guide. The more you practice, the more you perfect it, the more you improve. Thank you.